My name is Jackie Dixon. If you don't know me already, I run a business called VLX that helps Christian women to really become healthy in their relationships with their bodies, with God, with themselves, and with the men in their lives and intimacy, so they can shine brightly and help other people grow closer to God and just live an abundant and flourishing life to the greatest extent that it's possible down here. So the last Periscope that I did was pre-baby, what we should call that PB. And so I wanted to hop on here again and introduce you guys to my little one, which I'll do in just a second, and talk a little bit about what my experience has been like after pregnancy. If you follow me, you know that I teach a concept called body stewardship, which is essentially the idea that our bodies as Christians belong to God, that if we are Christ followers, then our bodies, as well as our souls and spirits and minds, and everything has been purchased by Christ because of his sacrifice. And so our bodies are tools to do the work of God in the world, and it's not a matter of our bodies and what do we want to do. And some of the repercussions of that are that we can't hate our bodies, we can't abuse our bodies, we can't choose to misuse something because it's really just on loan to us. We're just stewarding it, and God actually owns it. So I've taught that for years. I think it's a really key concept, and it changes a lot of the ways that we look at our bodies and think about ourselves, and it can lead us to a lot of healthier behaviors if we fully understand it. But let me tell you, I was in no way ready. I kind of guessed it, but I was still not ready for the shift that pregnancy and now being a new mom and breastfeeding had on this concept. I mean, talk about your body not being your own. It was occupied by another resident for 9 months, almost 10 months really is what pregnancy is. And now how I treat it is still affecting her. So she's currently napping but getting a little squirmy. So I'll introduce you guys real quick. This is baby Juliette. She was a month old yesterday. So she's still pretty fresh, which means I've only been a mom for a month and only been not pregnant for a month, which is mind-boggling. But she loves to sleep, loves to eat, and loves to be held, does not like to be put down. So she is a doll and fortunately very peacefully napping right now, so I can share a couple thoughts with you real quick. So I mentioned this in one of my recent blog posts, but my husband is 8 years older than I am and wanted to have children, not quickly, but he wanted to have children. And I was more like, there's really never a good time to do that. I don't know if I want to kind of do that investment of time and energy, and also the investment of my body, which I really underestimated. But I wasn't really excited about signing up for it, but I wanted to have children as well. So I kind of took my husband's advice, which is, you're never ready, so just jump in. And I just jumped in and we got pregnant. We did have a miscarriage 2 years ago, which is a whole nother story and all that taught me spiritually and physically. But this little baby made it all the way through. And so for 10 months, my body was not my own. And it was really wild. If you've been pregnant or you've been around someone who's been pregnant, you've probably seen the ebbs and flows of the different trimesters and what it looks like with morning sickness in that first trimester. And then, the second trimester is often considered to be just this fabulous, euphoric time when your hormones and you're glowing and everything else. And that's pretty much what it was for me. I really, really enjoyed pregnancy. I had about 3 weeks in the beginning where it was like, I was on the couch, I had excess saliva, so I was spitting into a cup because swallowing it would make me nauseous. I mean, TMI maybe, but my body was not my own. And that, both the misery in those couple weeks and then the joy of having this growing stomach and then the first couple kicks and not being able to move as easily and finally at the end just flat out waddling everywhere I went was such a very potent wake-up call that my body is not just for my own personal pleasure, not just for me doing what I feel like doing in the world. It's got a larger purpose, and it's got the design which allows it to create things beyond myself. I mean, here is a person. This is a new human being that grew inside my body, and now here she is. She's got a soul. She's got a destiny and a calling. She's going to have this crazy little personality. I would say she already does. She's very feisty, but very sweet. And my body did that. And I had to sacrifice my body to an extent to be willing to be made uncomfortable, to be willing to be inconvenienced, to be willing to take a lot of risks. I could have had another miscarriage. I could have had some kind of health complications of my own because of pregnancy. And then this is all not even talking about the actual birth, which I did do naturally. I didn't have any painkillers. I didn't even take an Advil, which I probably should have. It would have helped a little. But I mean, you want to talk about your body being just not under your control. In those last few hours of birthing naturally, there was nothing I could do. And we had a doula who had the fantastic point of the only way out of the agony of childbirth and labor is to have a baby, is to go all the way through. So I couldn't stop the process. And it was a good thing, because I probably would have chosen to be like, wait a second, I'd like a timeout. I'd like to take a break here. But I couldn't. And so I surrendered, really. That was the only thing you could do, is each contraction, each surge, each push I had to do, you just surrender to the fact that this is what my body's doing right now. I can't get it to stop. I would really rather not be feeling this right now, but I kind of don't have a choice, and so I'm going to go through it, and I'm just going to give my body over to this purpose, this greater purpose of creating another person. Well, it was incredible. And I wouldn't say I would do it again in a heartbeat. I'd say I would do it again in about a year. Give me a little time to forget the pain of that last hour and to get my energy back. Because this is what I was not as aware of, is my body was still very much being used for things beyond my own preferences and purposes, well past that birth. And here we are a month now, and I'm breastfeeding her, and I plan to for probably about a year. You know, we'll see how it goes. Who knows? I've never done this before. But that's the plan. And so I have largely healed. My tears and soreness and everything from the birth have healed. And so fortunately, my recovery was pretty quick. And I can move. I can work out lightly. I can, do everything I need to do. I just usually have a baby on my arm. But I'm still not I'm not the body that I was before I had a baby. And I think I'll come back. I mean, I'm pretty young, and I take great care of myself. Health coaching helps that. I kind of know how to take great care of my body. But it's still very much obvious to me that this is not just about me. And it probably never will be again. Maybe when she's 18 and she moves out of the house and she goes off to college and she's truly off on God's calling for her, whatever that may be. But I'll probably have another baby and maybe a couple more. And so this is going to be a recurring process. And it just has really struck me that this concept I've taught of body stewardship is just way bigger than what I had imagined. That doesn't mean that you have to have a child for your body to be used to the utmost by God at all. But certainly it brings to light the fact that our bodies are never just about us. It's an illusion that our bodies are ours and we get to choose what to do with them. And it's just about what we feel like doing and whether or not we like them or whether or not we like the way they look or how we choose to treat them. This is a tool that is incredibly powerful, and it's been created by God and given to us temporarily in the form that it's in to be used for His purposes. Now, we obviously don't have to do that. We can do whatever we want with them, but kind of like you can drive a car into a tree, it's really not a good idea. It's not the design that it was created to have. It's not the purpose that it was intended to have, and it's probably not going to go very well. So, but there's a certain amount of courage it takes to step into surrendering your body to God's causes. And I came to be aware of that, and I stepped into that when I decided to take better care of myself. And after modeling the first time around, and I was very, very dogmatic about my diet, and then really, because my mother was ill, I don't know if you guys know my story, but my mother became very ill. I became pretty depressed. I turned to food. I gained a ton of weight, and really abused my body and overeating in a lot of ways. And then the back end of that came back to a healthy relationship with my body, got back into modeling again with a much healthier way of living and understanding myself and seeing my body as a resource instead of my identity, and instead of a failure or a success based on what it weighed or how it looked or what people said about it. So massive difference, but still nothing quite like this, being totally signed up for really what is 2 years of offering my body fully in ways that I can't even agree to. They just happened in spite of me based on this autopilot kind of system, offering my body to another person to allow it to come to life. That's crazy. And there's so many metaphors and so many points that I could kind of run off with on this, but just focusing on this idea that our bodies are not ours. and how we care for our bodies. That's the other thing, that because I think, and it was also the grace of God and a lot of just luck and blessings and things like that, but I've really cared for my body well. I'm not, crazy about it, but I try to be relatively pure in the way that I eat, in the way that I move, in the way that I sleep. I'm not at all dogmatic anymore, but I do strive for purity and peace in the way I care for myself. And that has given me so much health in so many areas of my life and allowed much of my body to just function optimally. And I feel that that also helped this pregnancy be relatively easy. And this is a very, very healthy little baby here. She's eating like a fiend and sleeping like crazy and growing like crazy. And I feel that dedicating my body previously to God's work by agreeing to care for it, and not in a stressed out, controlling, obsessive way, but in just a, Lord, this is your tool, and I understand that this is how it's best cared for so that it can operate and function to its highest performance possible. And I'm going to do that. I'm going to do it for you. I'm going to do it because it brings me wellness and joy. And I think it really benefited this whole process, and it's made the pregnancy easier. It made the birth about as easy as you can have a birth be. And it certainly has made the recovery and just, I think probably even breastfeeding for her be a lot easier and a lot healthier. So it's just such a key concept. And I want you guys to not be discouraged, first of all, of how either your body has been created naturally in this current world, in this imperfect world, and even in how you may have abused it or neglected it for years, for decades, for things you might have done to it that have left it perhaps in a terrible state of disrepair. One of the key concepts of body stewardship is that your body is not why God loves you. Your body is not your identity. It's not your source of lovability or worthiness or beauty. It is a tool. And everything that is lovable about you, everything that determines your lovability or your worth or your identity, is completely detached from your physical body. So it's so easy in this culture to think, well, I'm worthy because I'm this weight, or I'm worthy because, I look this way, or I am super fit, or whatever, or I'm not worthy because I'm not super fit and I'm not that weight and I don't look that way. But it has nothing to do with that. And often I think people will go a little, I don't want to say too far, but they just simply miss the mark again, and they say, well, my identity isn't my body, it's not how I look, therefore I don't need to take care of my body, and I can trash it because my identity is over here and it's in my soul and in, just who God created me to be, and it doesn't have anything to do with my looks or my weight. And that's true, but we don't want to throw the baby out with the bathwater. I don't have time to go into all the theology now, but our bodies are a critical part of the Christian faith. The physical body is in a huge way the keystone of the Christian faith because Christ was raised bodily, and that's what we believe in and cling to as believers. If he just came back as a spirit, then as Paul says, we're all fools. So this is a key component, and God created it and said it was good. So we need to not ditch it, even as we're not allowing it to become our identity. So it's a complicated piece. Here's our little body waking up. So I'll wrap this up pretty soon. But we need to be willing to surrender our bodies to God's purposes. And I know it's scary. So I have a lot more to say about this topic, and I'm going to be periscoping, and I've got a video series that's coming out soon that you guys will see that explains in more depth the different components of this concept of body stewardship, because it's mental, it's spiritual, it's emotional, it's very definitely physical and logistical, how you're taking care of yourself. But you've got to get that mindset and that heart place right, or you're just going to be in another diet plan, which isn't going to last, unfortunately. And even if it does, it doesn't give you that deep relationship with God and awareness of what he created your body to do that you can have. So that's coming up soon. But I also want to tell you guys one more thing. I don't often talk about dating and marriage, but it has been requested, and a couple blog posts I wrote about it recently were pretty popular. So by request, this Saturday I'll be doing a dating scope, and we're going to be talking about fears that look like logic when you're considering dating or marrying someone, and that can mislead you, either into getting into a relationship that you shouldn't get into, or into not getting into a relationship that you should get into. So we're going to talk about dating and dating fears. Hey, baby. And if you would love to talk about that or ask me any questions, I definitely invite you to be there. And we're going to sort out all those issues. So this Saturday, and I'll post a time on my Facebook page I would say it's probably going to be about 11 or maybe noon. So come with all your questions and be prepared to deal with all those pesky little fears. And I'm going to go deal with this little one. Thank you guys, and welcome little Juliette. She'll be featuring, and I'm sure, many more of these. So have a fabulous day, you guys, and I'll see you soon. Bye-bye.